Hello, Culture Matters podcast. I'm excited to introduce you to our guest. Before I do that, here's a quote I picked just for this episode. Impossible is a word to be found only in the dictionary for fools. Napoleon Bonaparte. Today, we have a good friend of the Culture Matters podcast on episode 112, season 10, and episode 19, season 2. Tony Capullo, the man, the myth, the master. Listen to those two episodes because I know they're going to be different than this one today. And please understand that Tony is partly responsible, big time, for your enjoyment. Guests like Jerry Acuff and Janine Driver, and the list goes on and on. Ben Reinberg, who was just on, he's the reason your culture matters more, because without him, we wouldn't know these people.
You had Ben on?
I have more to say, but I'm going to stop so I can see how you're doing. Thanks for coming back.
No, thank you for inviting me. You had Ben Reinberg on, huh?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, he's really good. And you had Troy Korsgaard, right?
Oh my God, how could I forget that? I must be nervous. Troy Korsgaard has been on twice. Everyone listening, Tony Capullo is an advisor, a mentor, a consultant with many tools in his tool belt, and has helped many of these people and more, and is a big part of why you get to listen to these amazing, extraordinary people on the show. I picked this quote today because I want to know your thoughts on this, Tony. Impossible is a word to be found only in the dictionary for fools, as it relates to what you've been working through and beating through today. What do you think of that quote?
Well, I love the quote because, as you know, the last 3 months, 3.5 months, there were times when the word impossible did pop into my head, but you have to kind of, talk yourself out of it. And that's a very hard thing to do. And I'll tell you, Jay, that the last 3.5 months, because it started at the end of December, it can be dark, because your arm that you had, the hand thing, and it gets to be a very dark place. But I was very fortunate to have friends like you, Kevin Elko, Troy, that would call. Zach Conley. Zach was great. Zach called every day.
Wow.
Yeah, every day, because he'd been through something similar. So you get through so you try not to use the word impossible.
For those that don't know, what happened?
So I went to Texas. I went to Dallas, Texas for Christmas, and it was great. 6 days. I stayed with some friends. And when I got back, I think I was only back a day, and I started feeling, I noticed that my legs didn't feel right. And what I mean by not feeling right, they felt inflamed, even though they didn't look the same. But I woke up one day, I was like, my legs do not feel right. And being an exercise person, I know my body very well. People like you've done the bodybuilding thing, right? You know when something's off. And you pretty much know what it is. But it was started with my legs, and then I think it was like that night I started to roll. I tried to roll over, and I pushed myself off my elbow, and I couldn't move. And the pain in my left shoulder, my right, was almost like a stabbing, like a really sharp stabbing. And I was like, that was alarming because it was so strong. And then when I got up in the morning, I'm right-handed. So my right hand was completely useless. To the point where I was like, I can't even pick up the toothpaste tube. So yeah, and then at that point, my legs started to contract. Like it's just even hard to describe, because it was just like everything went. I was trying to get dressed, and I was like, I can't lift my leg to put it through my pant leg. But I knew I live in a condo downstairs. I had to go downstairs. I used my left hand to grab an ice pack out of the freezer. And I went downstairs. I was still barefoot. And I said to the girl, Morgan, her name was Morgan, I said, Morgan, you do me a favor. I need to take this ice pack and sandwich it on my neck and secure it with my shirt. And she looked at me and she said, Tony, you don't look well. What's wrong? And my hand was like a claw, right? So she's like, what's wrong with your hand? I'm like, and at this point, I did not know. So I go back upstairs. I have it on my neck because I feel like the nerve, it's got to have something to do with the nerves in my neck. That's the only thing I can think of. And so I got the shower turned on, the hot water, loosened my hand. Um, my legs, it loosened them, but they were still inflamed. But that started a 3-month journey, as you know, through many tests, many different kinds of doctors, X-rays and brain scans, and when you go through that, and you use the word impossible, which I love the quote, is because you wake up in the morning and you say to yourself, nothing is gonna, and this is a terrible thing to say, but you say to yourself, nothing is going to happen today that's going to change this. And I think that the lowest point of this journey, I had to go to a doctor's appointment, and at that point, my legs really, I was shuffling. I mean, barely shuffling, and I couldn't lift them very well. And so when the Uber came, I said to the gentleman driving, I said, I'm going to need some assistance. If you just be patient, I'll get in. And he said, take your time. And it was raining out. It was windy out. And he gets me to the doctor's office. And I said to him, I'm sorry, but it's going to take me a minute. And at this point, by the way, my wrists, if you just tapped my wrist, we're doing that, and I don't know if they can see this, hurt like heck.
Wow.
I mean, yeah. So I couldn't really, I couldn't push the door open because it would resonate on my shoulder. It was just off, right? So I get the door open. I take my leg and I move it out. I take the other leg, move it out. As I go to stand up, I fall on the concrete in the rain with the wind blowing. I'm sitting on the ground. I was lucky I didn't hit my head, but I fell. And I didn't have the strength to pick myself back up. So he gets out and he helps me up. And I'm staying in the wind and the rain, and my elbows are scraped, and it's just
What did you feel that moment?
you, you just want to die. It's a moment where I say to myself, there's very few in my life. Is this really happening? Could this really be that bad? I mean, I think the last time I said that was the day I was standing at the altar of my wedding, but that's besides the point. But that's another story.
For those that are listening and thinking, this guy, did he die and come back to life? Like, how are you here today talking about this?
Yeah. So,
and you're a business owner. You're not, I almost said like, it's not like you don't have a tremendous responsibility to yourself and others of what you do.
Yeah.
So how are you here today even talking?
Well, they started sending me all these tests, right? It was nerve this, nerve that, this doctor, hand doctor, upper extremity doctor, this scan, and this blood test and that blood test. And at some point I was like, I don't have any answers, until the doctor said, one of the neurologist said to me, your dad had ALS, and so we have to test you to see if you have the gene. And I said, okay. He said, so we're going to send you to UCLA Medical Center. Okay. So then they came back and said, well, we're going to do a swab of your mouth and then ship it to UCLA. And so I went to the doctor's office and they did the swab. They gave me the sample in the FedEx package. I mailed it, right? So I could track it. And they said it'll be a few days. And I was like, okay. Now, it ended up being like 3.5 weeks. And I don't know why it took that long. But during those 3.5 weeks, I woke up one day and I was like, my legs feel really good. Like there's no more inflammation. I can move my legs, I can get dressed. My hands started to come back. And the pain in my shoulders, which at night was excruciating, would Now it's completely gone. I mean, it's almost like my body course corrected itself. And in fairness to the orthopedic doctor, he said to me, we don't know what's wrong with you yet. But I have seen people have these symptoms, and then one day they wake up and they're gone. Now, I didn't just wake up and they were gone, but they slowly started going away. And like right now, I'm 99%. And I still don't have a diagnosis. I did not have the ALS gene.
How are you working with this? And what's your advice to people that are going through something right now? Right now, we're in a contraction. Everyone I've talked to, every industry's down, every business is struggling, and economic, like outside of people's control. Of course, people are embracing that in varying degrees, but there's a macro contraction happening. So how are you working?
Well,
What's your advice to people?
that's a great observation. I'm glad you shared. Thank you for that. Well, here's how I look at it. Having gone through that, it was very difficult to work because you get very tired. You're constantly on the move. You're in this doctor's office, that doctor's office, and of course, you just don't know what's wrong with you. You'd say, "This is like the craziest thing. I just woke up and there it was." Right. So that messes with your head. Dr. Kevin Elko, Kevin, would call me daily and he would say, "How you feel? Get your imagination under control." Right. That's what he'd say to me. Don't dance one-on-one with the devil, because the devil is discouragement and distraction. Zach would call me and talk to me about what he went through, right? And Zach said to me, if you have suicidal thoughts, call me, because it's normal. So I really didn't work very much. But now, even though the rest of the world is contracting, I feel born again. So now I've got my energy back. I have my energy back. I have my focus back. My mornings start very, very, very early, like they used to. Used to be I couldn't, when I was sick. It was very hard to get out of bed. I mean, because I would be like, it was depressing, because I'd be like, how am I going to? It would take me, 45 minutes to get up, find my way to the shower, find a way to get dressed. I would have to wear clothes that were easy to put on because I couldn't lift my arms above my head. So now I just feel like this is just another opportunity, a born again type of thing where I'm just going great guns. I mean, I wake up every day and, I think everything is every thought is a vibration, I guess. And I think my vibrations are very high because I'm very grateful to be able to move my fingers and move my legs. And I mean, the fact that this course corrected, and this is going to sound odd, but I would pray and I would ask, just restore my health. So I want the rest I'll figure out. Everything else, the business I'll figure out. Please just restore my health. And here I am. And I still don't have a diagnosis.
Is that scary?
No. One day the neurologist said to me, and I liked him a lot. He said to me, he had these 3 assistants in the room, all very good looking, by the way. And he said to me,
it's another episode, my friend.
Yeah, that'll be another episode. That's on Showtime. But but he said to me, he'd push my arm and push it this way and test my strength. And he'd say -3, -2, whatever, grading me. And so he said to me, I want you to stand up. And now I'm standing there with no shirt on, right? In this room. And he said, I want you to.
Congratulations.
Thank you. He said to me, I want you to hop on one foot, whichever foot, from there to her. And this girl standing with him. And I looked at him and I smiled and I said, Doc, I couldn't hop on one foot when I was healthy. How am I going to? And he laughed, right? But I did it. I somehow managed to do it without falling. Yeah. So, and then what happened was, as I started to gradually feel better, I thought, well, let me test myself. So one day I went outside, and in a remote area, right? It was pretty remote. And I said, I'm going to see, I just picked the spot and it was maybe 10 yards away. And I said, I'm going to see if I can jog from there to there. Now, if I don't, I fall on my freaking face. I'm going to be left here, but I'm going to try to jog. And I did. And then I went back. I did that 6 times. So it would, and I thought, well, I hope there's no hope tonight. I don't wake up tomorrow and my legs are completely shot. But no. And then every day I started walking on the treadmill, and then it would increase the incline. And I would just push myself as hard as I could push to test to see how far I could do it, how far I could go. And I lost 20 pounds, as you know. I'm trying to gain the weight back. Pizza's good way to do it. But it's just a weird thing. One of the things that happened when this first started, the pain in my shoulders was like, it was agony. And when you go through something pain, which you have, pain is a complete distraction. So I called the doctors, I called the orthopedics office, and I said, I need something for pain. And at this point, I sound like a pill popper, right? But I need something for pain because I can't concentrate. And she said to me, and the girl said to me, we don't give medicine, painkillers, unless somebody has had surgery. I said, okay. I said, well, I have a question for you. Do you have kids? And she said, yes, I have 3. Okay. I said, so if one of your children had chronic pain all around the clock, and someone could help them but would choose not to, how would you feel? And she just sat there. And she goes, no, I understand what you're saying. You understand, but you're not helping me, but that's okay. It's your process. So thank you. And I hung up. Maybe 10 minutes went by and I see the number pop up. It's her. And she said, we called you in a prescription to CVS, and CVS texted me, and I went and I picked it up, and it gave me 6 days of unbelievable reprieve. But I knew they weren't going to do it again. But
what's the lesson in that? What do you say to the person that's afraid to ask what you asked?
That's afraid to ask. You have to ask. You have to ask. Because what I learned about the health system is they can do whatever they want. What really helped me, by the way, was the acupuncture. The acupuncture part was so helpful when I went, and it was so funny because she starts putting pins and these needles in me with infrared light over them. And I said, and at this point, when I went there the first time, my legs were still inflamed, but they were coming around a little bit. And I said, no one's told me anything about my legs. And I said, other than I need to see a spinal doctor. She said, oh, no, you don't need to see a spinal doctor. It's not your spine. She goes, does your back hurt? I said, no, my back doesn't hurt. She said, that's because it's your gallbladder. Right. So I forgot. I started going to her regularly. And then one day I'm looking at this anatomical chart. She has all these lines in it, colored, pathways, meridians. And I said to her, I'm looking at this green line of the gallbladder. I said, and it runs into the head. And she said, yeah, that's why I'm putting the needles in your head. And, she cured my legs.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. By the way, and I know this is since we do these things, and she did tell me no coffee, no sweet and low. She went down the whole list, and then she said she gave me the lesson about semen retention. And for your listeners who don't know, you're not allowed to ejaculate for like 90 days. To which I said, you mean 90 minutes? And she said, no, 90 days. And she was adamant though. She was like maybe 5'1", and she's like, no, don't make a joke out of this. No, I'm serious. And she goes, and she said to me, she goes, in Chinese medicine, a man's semen is his essence. I go, I know, but I'm Italian. And she goes, no. So it's
so are you the first person to ever prove that met thousands of years old of tradition wrong?
Yes. It's still, I, I went down the list and there was one I couldn't put a check mark next to, and I'll just help you figure out.
Tony, how important has it been over the years being a business owner, being an entrepreneur, being responsible for people's success to laugh every once in a while, to keep things fun?
If I didn't laugh through it, I would have cried through it. And I would laugh through it. I mean, and you hide the pain, but I would make jokes. I would make jokes just even going downstairs to get my mail, because I would shuffle, right? And I'd make jokes about the shuffle. I'd make jokes about my hand. I'd do all sorts of stuff, and people would look at me like, why is he making a light of this? But you know, I heard this expression one time: tragedies very often become comedies, and they better become comedies real quick. And
Wow.
yeah, and you know, laughter is almost like a medicine itself.
Have you been, are you better for having gone through this today versus even 6 months ago?
100%.
And why?
Why did it happen? I don't know. It tested my mental toughness. It tested my self-talk. Right. I mean, I'll give you an example. Asking yourself the question, am I going to die? I asked the doctor that one day. I said, am I going to die? She said, if I am, I'm okay with it. I just need to know. So it's a wonder. Now I look back at it that I did what I got done. I was productive, you know, did some work, not as productive as I normally would be, but it's amazing that I got through it, because and now I look back and I think, Jay, how did I like make myself go out and run? Right? How did I make myself get on a treadmill? Right? I think you're just wired to do what you do what you have to do. And I knew, and I in my mind told myself, I'm on this journey alone. Right? Everybody else has their issues. You know, we both know somebody who just lost his son, right, to a car accident. Right? It was horrible. You know, I was leaving Texas, and I had called the airlines before I left Vegas and said, is there any way I could pre-board because of my legs? And the lady said, yeah, you don't even have to tell us anything. All you have to do is go up to the agent and tell them you need to pre-board. I did. When I left Vegas, the guy was great. Gave me a new boarding pass. When I was leaving Texas, I shuffle up to the counter, and the lady said to me, I gave her the boarding pass, said I need to pre-board. And she said, why? I said, excuse me? And she said, why do you need to reboard? And I tried to explain to her. She said, that's not a valid reason. I said, are you serious? So rolling her eyes at me, she holds her hand out. I give her the boarding pass. She rips it up and gives me a new boarding pass. When I looked at the new boarding pass, it said needs additional time. So I was cool with that. I get to the gate. I go to pre-board. I hand the agent my boarding pass. And she says to me, oh no, this just gives you additional time. You can't pre-board. I said, well, I have an issue with my legs. I explained it to her. Name was Vanessa at the gate. She goes, well, I guess she didn't think it was enough. So she gave me the pass back. Said, you have to step aside. I said, well, when can I board? She's like, after group A. I said, okay. And I was really furious. And so I got back that night. I was so mad that this lady judged me based on just looking at me, right? Didn't ask. And so I called the airline that night, and which I'd never have done ever. And the woman told me, we're not allowed to ask you that. So here's what I want you to do. I filed a complaint, and I actually received an email recently from the airline that said, given the nature of your complaint, we have escalated this up to a higher level and we'll be in touch in 30 days. And by the way, Jay, I did say in the complaint, I don't want anything. I'm not looking for money. I'm not looking for free flights. I'm not looking for points. What I want is for this person to be retrained, because
Wow,
The next person could be in worse shape than me and suffer. And it's not fair for her to look at somebody and judge them.
Why do you care about the next person?
Because I know what it's like to be in pain. I know what it's like to have difficulty going through a line or going through a crowd of people and thinking, how am I going to get from here to there? I mean, and not, nobody cares. I mean, really, nobody really does care. I mean, some maybe, but what if it is the next person? The person has an issue. You don't know. But the other thing is, it's also wrong to look at somebody and say, "Now you're okay." Well, how do you know? How do you know?
And you don't think it was because she thought you were cute?
No, but I'm going to go back to that airport.
What do we say about comedy?
It better be, yeah. Tragedy's very, very often better become.
Yeah, what can we do other than laugh in the face of the unknown and the uncertainty?
You have to say, Kevin Elko, I reference him a lot, always talks about, well, with cultures, business cultures, sports cultures, he's big in sports, right? They all successful organizations that have good cultures have a language. They have a language. And if you, like, for example, you lived in Philadelphia when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, right? They had things like, he said they had one word written on their whiteboard when you walked in the locker room. It said ownership. Do your job. Just do your job. And
Wow.
so, right, at Alabama, University of Alabama, it was, carry the water till it becomes wine, right? It was hold the rope, right? In other words, no matter what bad is happening, hold that rope. So I would just try to tell them, I think in addition to the comedy, you have to tell yourself something that Christian Conte actually taught me, which is every experience, emotional experience, has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And so I kept telling myself, this is going to have an end. Now, I don't know how it's going to end, but it's going to end. I mean, I'm not going to go through life like this.
Shout out to anyone listening to this right now. If you go to the Culture Matters podcast, Christian Conti is on the show. Thanks to Tony. Listen to that episode. I think it's season 8, maybe 7. Zach Connolly was mentioned. Another alumni.
Yeah. Was he on the show?
Yes, sir. I
He
mean,
was.
of course, this is how important has community been in your life, personally, business wise? Because if I'm self-aware and honest, this community's been impacted by you. You're a community guy.
Well, thank you.
Great pundits, experts have been through the show. Our audience has been able to listen.
Oh, and they're going to love.
Almost like you're like that lantern in the night, and these little flies are gravitating.
I have a lot of ex-girlfriends who wouldn't call me a lantern in the night. But
we'll have to do a different season 72. The
right.
Girlfriend of Tony
Capullo. By the way, I'm very excited when you interview Kevin Elko, because, and I know, and I'm going to tell you why. He is now getting a TV show on Showtime called The Head Coach.
Wow.
And it's sponsored. His sponsor is Monster Energy Drink. And so he called me 2 weeks ago and he said, "Hey, I'm going to be coming to Vegas with the CEO of Monster Energy Drink." And I was like, "Oh, so let's get together and have lunch." He goes, "Oh, no, we're doing it." He's like, "We're having a meeting with Dana White, who's the president of the UFC." And he's like, "I need you to be at that meeting." And I'm like, "Me?" He's like, "Oh, yeah." Because he goes, "You know all my content better than anybody else." So I'm going to this meeting, but Elko is going to be a great guest because of all the stuff he brings. And he is the one person that I will refer to somebody that when he does something, like he's doing a bi-monthly thing to a company out in Denver. And I sit on every one of them because I take notes. I mean, I've heard the content, but it's great.
Why do you still take notes after all these years of being the Swiss Army knife to a lot of people of influence and prominence? Why do you still take notes? Don't you know it all?
No reinforcement. They say, repetition is the mother of skill, right? And he always comes up with something new. Like he came up with something I thought was phenomenal, and I think your listeners, when he gets into it, will love it. You're either a fountain or you're a drain. Fountains contribute to people's lives. Drain take from people's lives, and I love that.
Wow.
If you're not prepared, you'll be repaired.
I need some advice. I made an introduction. It's not something that I do. Like, it's something I did. And I stopped doing it. I was so nervous to make it. And I need help. Like, should I be doing more of that?
Why were you nervous? Because you're such a you're such a connector, and you're so good with people. You're really good with people.
Thanks.
In fact, you're one of the best I know. And it's so funny because people always ask me about doing podcasts. They're like, do you do podcasts? I'm like, no, I only do one. Only one.
Thanks, Don.
No, it's true. I said that.
Well,
On the
then
previous.
I have a blind spot that I need help with because when I listen to you and I observe, you do introduce people that you think can help each other. Although it may appear as though that's something that I do, it's something I did. It's something I haven't done, and something I recently did do, and I'm not sure if it's something I should continue doing or if I should shrink back into my hole.
Well,
So the first question I have is, should I do that, and why?
I think it was in the last podcast we talked about connecting the dots, right? And that's connecting the dots. And the reason I think you should do it is it builds a community. You asked me how important the community was during that time. I don't know I would have made it through without the support and the love of everybody in my community, you included. I mean, it was, even a text message from someone saying, tell me how you're doing today, or, you were in my prayers today. I mean, that just, when you're at rock bottom, that is everything. And you don't get that if you don't have community. And the community doesn't mean you have to do business with them. It just means you could have connected them to somebody.
Was there ever a time where you were hesitant to introduce two people that you knew?
Only if I questioned one of them's integrity, in which case I wouldn't do it. Right. In other words, if I talk about givers and takers. If one of them is a taker, the answer is no. But if they're both givers, then they'll give to each other, and I'll let them work it out. And like Ben Reinberg, right? So Ben Reinberg.
Yeah, shout out to Ben. Recently, in last season, I believe he's been on the show. That's a great one for anyone listening that's interested in real estate investing.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but I want to shout him out.
So he has he was looking for somebody to connect with on a certain issue, and so I did it. And there's nothing in it for me, and I don't really care. He just asked me for the help, and I gave it to him, right? So, I mean, the alternative is to say either no or, well, what's in it for me? And I'm not going to say either one of those. So,
why not?
Why not what?
Why not say no, or what's in it for me? What's your cultural principle?
Well, I have a lot of, well, just like you, I have a lot of respect, and your friends. He's my friend. You're my friend. So if you called me and said, I want to be introduced to so-and-so, right? Yeah, why would I say no? You're my friend. Glad to help. I get a lot of fulfillment, though, out of helping. So for me, that's almost like, I like that. I enjoy that. I do. And it sounds corny, but it's true.
What's your philosophy around not asking for something in return, or how would one go about doing that in a way that easy or
Yeah,
self-interested. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't feel comfortable asking for something in return. I kind of feel like if it returns, it returns. You know, if it returns, that's great. I mean, who knows? Maybe somewhere down the road, I'll call Ben and say, hey, you know, do you feel comfortable helping me on this? I need to be introduced, or I need you to look at something for me, or whatever it is.
Do
I'm
you think
having
if you
dinner
went
with him.
into
I'm supposed to
these,
have dinner with him next month. He's here doing dropping bombs.
wait, that's thanks to you,
May
I would argue.
May 25th, I think.
Have you found that it all just ends up working out?
Yeah,
Do you think if you had an agenda, it would be less real?
I totally believe that. I think this is how I look at it. You take steps in your process, which is, let's say I connect two people today, I connect two people tomorrow, but I'm still doing my work, right? Over time, those connections, they amount to relationships. And as Jerry Acuff would say, everything's about relationships, right? So it's not necessarily that you get something as much as you fortify your relationships with those people.
I
So
think
I don't look at it as what can I get from it. I never look at it that way. I look at it that way if I go on a date, what am I going to get? But that's besides the point.
no comment.
Yeah.
I think I'm subconsciously afraid to be used because I have been.
Well, but if you're just doing an introduction, it's kind of like do the introduction, step out of the way. How there's nothing for them to use you for other than the introduction. So what? That's and believe me, I've done it where somebody says, "Can you introduce me so and so?" Yes. Can you introduce me so and so? Yes. Can you just? There was a guy in Orlando in last year, and he kept doing that to me. Hey, I need this. Hey, I need that. Hey, I need this. Hey, I need that. And it wasn't. It was the way he would. Hey, I need this. I need. And he, the first person he wanted to meet was Troy, and I did it until I stopped him because it was like constant. It was constant, and I
Is there
realized
something to someone coming to you versus you going to them, and how do you differentiate when it
because like
proactive
okay,
versus?
well, that's an easy answer because, and I know you have to go in 5 minutes, but I just want to say this: I try to look. It's connecting the dots is not just this person and this person need to meet. I'll give an example. A lot of who I'm dealing with now going into this thing, healthy culture. They need culture. So I'll do an introduction. I don't want anything from it. I'm helping a friend. That's fulfillment enough. I'm helping them because I'm bringing them a culture person. I'm helping you. So work it out, and if you need my help, I'll help. But no, I don't.
What is exciting for 2023?
My health.
The rebound? Is
Yeah.
rebound even the right word?
I'm going to call it a reboot.
Is now a time that people listening to this, whether they're burdening that level of responsibility or just other things that are going on in their lives, is there opportunity? Is it okay to look at things glass half full? Is it a time? Is it a season of work? How are we getting through this?
There's a guy and he passed away. And he was one of the greatest psychologists in sports, but he also started doing business. He created a business. Now his family is taking over the business. But I heard him say this in
Wow.
Impact Theory, the right, that
Oh,
Tom Bellew, and he said people don't want to be told to be positive because it's hard, right? So he said think neutral, right? Think just don't. He'd say don't say stupid shit out loud. Today's gonna be a tough day, right? But it's hard to say, today's gonna be a great day, today's gonna be a good day, today's gonna be a good day. So it's okay to be half full, right? And you can't say to someone, be positive when someone's going through a breakup or they got an illness or they can't pay their bills, and you say, think positive. It's not realistic.
Should I introduce people?
Yes, because that's who you are. You know a lot of great people and you're a great person.
Thanks, Tony.
You are.
This has helped me today.
You're in the public eye, as since I've known you, your visibility has really increased, and you and I have become friends. There are people that I have friends that if they ask me, should I introduce people, I say, no, don't. Just don't. Don't. Stay where you are. But you're not that person.
What's the last word that you want the audience to take away for today?
Gratitude.
We will see you all the next time in the Culture Matters podcast.
Thank you, Jay.